Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Diet Dr. Griffin! This is Diet Dr. Griffin back with another episode of the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. Like, rate, and subscribe. I've had a busy week here in terms of free agency, and Shane's going to be with us discussing everything. How you doing, Shane?
I'm doing well, Griffin. And before we get started really quick, I just have one question for you.
Yes.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
I have been a Star Wars person more than Star Trek, but I don't really have an affinity for either of them right now.
Okay, perfect. I'm a Star Wars guy too, so looks like we can be friends still.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the original trilogy, but a lot of the stuff since has been bad, and I haven't watched any of the TV series on Disney Plus, so I can't comment on the quality of those products.
Yeah. They just came out with a new Star Trek. I haven't seen series anyway, so I
Oh,
figure I might check that out and
yeah.
see if that's getting any better.
Honestly, I haven't watched any Star Trek besides The Next Generation and some of the movies, so I can't
Yeah,
comment on that either.
yeah. I thought
Here's
they were gonna
this.
make like more movies, but they only made the two. So.
Well, they made three new movies, and I don't know if you remember the kid who played Chekhov, he died.
Oh, he died. That's right. And it was like a freak accident too. It was like
Yeah,
truck
it was one of
pinned
those
him or whatever.
he got pinned, but it was like one of those defects on a car, like with the parking brake going up a hill or something. He just got ran over by his own car. Tragic situation. The kid was like 26, 27 years old. He was really young.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's been enough time they could just ride him into an alternate dimension or something. But
I heard there were talks for a while about Quentin Tarantino making a Star Trek movie as one of his last movies, and I don't think he's going to do that now.
that would be kind of cool though. Just a super violent Star Trek.
Yeah, at this point though, a lot of the cast of that new group is kind of aged out and is doing other things. So I don't know what if they would reboot the series or just maybe do a new
Yeah.
next generation. I don't know. You could tell we
Yeah.
talked about this stuff before we went on the air doing the show prep.
Yeah, exactly. So
Surprise! Anyway,
uh,
speaking of surprise, I wasn't surprised that Juan Soto signed with the Mets. What I was surprised about was for how much.
yeah,
So
it seemed a
if you've
little
been living
obscene.
under a rock, he signed
Yeah.
before we dive in. He signed for 15 years, $765 million.
Yeah.
Unreal. I thought he would sign for 15 years at 600 plus. I thought it would be somewhere in the 600 range. I did not think he would get 765.
Yeah, I mean, I isn't is that is it slightly more per year or slightly less per year than Otani, if Otani were taking the full amount?
Well, I mean, if Otani was taking the full amount, I mean, 70 million over 10 years,
Yeah.
but because of the deferrals, the average annual value of Soto's deal is higher than for what the present value of the contract is. Like Otani's deal is only 46 a year. Like that's what he's
Gotcha.
being charged on the CBT.
What I was reading something in Soto's contract, it goes up to like 852 million towards the end if like the club pays him more money or something.
What's happened is he has an opt out. He has one of those Garrett Cole opt outs where if
Gotcha.
you can opt out, I believe, after the fourth year, and then the Mets can opt back in, but they got to add $4 or $5 million per year, which I think would take the total of the contract to $805 million. This is
Oh, okay.
right.
Yeah. Wow, that'd be
I don't even know if he would quite.
obscene.
I don't know if he would quite frankly opt out and risk that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
And
that's one of the largest sums of money paid to an individual player. So
pretty much. I mean, in the NBA, you actually have guys making over 60 million a year, but it's on shorter term deals.
yeah,
But for the MLB, he's obviously the first player making over 50 a year in actual dollars.
yeah, that's just absolutely crazy. I mean, good for him. I mean, we knew it was going to be expensive, but
Yeah,
man,
it's what
so
happens when you got the two New York teams bidding against each other because the Yankees' final offer ended up being, I believe, 16 years for $760 million.
wow, so really not that far off,
You just have
basically.
an extra year in there.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what. Yeah, it's interesting because I thought him and Judge played really well together. Seemed like they liked playing together, but yeah,
They did. And I think, when you hire Scott Boras as your agent, you're going for the dollars. And honestly, the way that the Mets roster and the ownership is constructed, it seemed like they probably have the better chance of competing over
yeah,
the
yeah. I mean,
next.
they look like they're going to be good again next year.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's interesting to see what's going to happen, but they seem like they're more on the upswing than the Yankees are because of the way that Hal just doesn't want to spend just spend so much money. They're a lot more locked in, I would say, with their current personnel than the Mets are.
yeah, and Glaber hasn't really played. I mean, Glaber still played well, but he
Glaber's a free
hasn't.
agent, though. He's one of the guys who's probably going to be gone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because he hasn't played as well as they thought he was going to when they traded for him.
Was
Come
Glaber?
to Seattle, kill your career, Glaber. We'd love you here. So,
I always feel like Glaber. I guess maybe if Glaber was traded, he was traded prior to him coming up because I feel like he played all his time at the majors with the Yankees.
yeah, he. I think he was traded as a minor league prospect, supposed
Oh,
to be
okay.
like one of the best second basemen from. I was just reading this the other day, but I want to say Cleveland, but I'm not quite sure. So,
Yeah, but the Juan Soto was just the big move of the week, and it got a lot of people thinking about would there be a potential billion-dollar player?
oh yeah.
Have you given any thoughts about anybody currently playing who you think could potentially get a billion-dollar contract? Because honestly, I'm not sure there is one.
Yeah, I mean, you would think the person who would be closest would have been Otani, who plays on both sides of the plate. So
Yeah.
that would have been, like give him 500. He's easily a $500 million pitcher, and this year he proved he's a $500 million batter. So
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the guy who would make your team that much money, but you hadn't even broken $500 million really, let alone, billions. You have to kind of go, these things have to kind of go in stages. And that's kind of
yeah.
why I don't think anybody's close. Like the one player who I think could potentially come close to a Juan Soto type deal in the coming years is Gunnar Henderson.
Hmm.
He's long enough away from free agency that you got a natural progression of inflation. And
Yeah,
he
because it's
was
going to take at least what do you think, like 10 years, probably, maybe,
I don't know
or
about
maybe
10. I
two.
mean, to get to a billion, yeah, it's probably going to be like 10, 15 years for a billion. But
Yeah,
realistically, he's probably the only one who's close because he's, I believe, 2 years into his career so far, rookie of the year, and he was on the short list of contenders for MVP this year.
yeah, man. If Bobby Witt Jr. continues to play well too, he might
Well, Bobby
be.
would already sign an extension, so
Oh yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah,
don't
never mind.
think.
Yeah.
I actually read an article about saying that Ellie De La Cruz would be a billion-dollar player, and I kind of just scoffed at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he starts hitting the baseball, then yeah, I mean, it seemed like he really wanted to beat like 80. Like it seemed like he wanted to get 100 steals, and then he just sometime after the All-Star break, his team wasn't in contention anymore, and he just stopped stealing bases, basically. Not because I think he couldn't do it. I think he just was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to risk injury, running around the bases for nothing, I guess. So,
I,
Glaber
I
was one of the Cubs' top prospects. by the way.
The
So
Cubs. Okay, there
too
we go.
far. Yeah.
Oh, is he somebody they
Yeah.
picked up in the Aroldis Chapman trade?
Yes, dude, great memory. Jeez.
That was the only trade I could think of that they did with the Cubs. I mean, I
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
hearing
that and
rumblings that the Yankees want to trade with the Cubs for Cody Bellinger, which I just kind
yeah.
of laugh at. Like, why does anybody want Cody Bellinger? He's completely washed.
Yeah, I mean I hear rumblings that the Mariners want him, but we love washed up players.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
at
I think
least they're
Cody.
at least. I mean, speaking of like washed up or teams, I think at least the Angels are doing everything they possibly can to not be in last place in the division this year. So
I don't know, man. The A's are making some moves here too. But we'll circle back to the A's in a minute here
yeah,
because the Yankees made the first major move after the Juan Soto signing, and they went out and they picked up Max Fried for 8 years, $218 million, the most money ever given to a left-handed pitcher.
let's go. Lefties rule the world.
I
Ah.
I'm happy Max Fried got the money, but I feel like this is a horrible move by the Yankees. I think it's too much
I
money,
I
too
disagree.
long.
How old is Max? How old is Max?
I believe Max Fried is 31 years old.
He got 8 years.
Yeah, he's born January 18th, 1994, so he'll be 31 next year.
Oh yeah, 8 years is a long time on that for that contract, but I mean, you'd think he probably has two or three like good ones. I mean, Luis Castillo's 33, so
I think they signed Luis Castillo though to a 5-year, $125 million contract.
yeah, so he'll probably age out on the Mariners as well. I mean, but he's got the joy that is for young kids who would be pitcher number one on a lot of rosters. So
Castillo only has like 3 years left on his. He signed a 5-year, $108 million deal.
yeah,
There
yeah,
is a vesting year for 2028, but that's not that bad compared to Freed.
yeah.
I think Freed's gonna miss a year somewhere in that contract.
I think you're right too, and for the speaking about the contract of Max Fried, I think that's a little bit foolish to think he's going to pitch until he's 39 at the level that he's pitching now, which I mean they probably don't, but that's like Justin Verlander's age, and he's probably not going to play next year. So,
I mean, well, I think Verlander won a Cy Young at 38, 39 years old because
oh yeah,
he won a Cy Young.
yeah,
He won the Cy
I
Young a
always
couple years ago.
forget that he just like played. Yeah, he had that one year where he was just lights out. That
Yeah.
I love watching him throw. That he's one of those old school starters with that 12-6 curve, and he throws the high fastball off of it. That's just unhittable when he's on. So
Yeah, Freed's had forearm issues the past couple of years, which has kind of been a
yeah,
concern.
yeah. I guess, and when you think about it that way, it's pretty surprising because it's kind of a gamble in order to spend that much money on a guy who has always, the last couple of seasons, he's missed, at least a month or two due to those forearm issues.
Yeah, and this is honestly the contract I thought Corbin Burns would get. This was kind of the 8 years, 200 plus. That was what I thought Corbin Burns would get. And he's still
Yeah.
sitting out there and thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get more than Max Fried because I'm quite frankly better than Max Fried. And I don't think there's much debate.
I mean, yeah, I mean, so here's the thing is so like Max Fried has had the forearm issues, but I think he led the league in complete games. And so if you think about like that aspect of your starting pitcher being able to throw 100 pitches every single time he takes the bump, whether he takes a month off or not. I mean, everyone takes a little time off due to injuries, unless you're the Mariners starting rotation, excluding Brian Wu this year. And so if you think about Max's Fried's value in that regard, going deep into games and
Yeah, but you're
going complete games when you need him to go complete games, I think then you could kind of see that maybe it might be
okay.
worth
So
it.
he had
But
two complete games this year, but Max Fried has had one season in his career where he's pitched over 180 innings.
yeah,
Corbin Burns has pitched over 190 innings each of the last 3 years, and
okay,
has a Cy Young Award win on his resume.
yeah. I'm
I
ready for I'm ready for Max Fried to have Chris Sale's here. Let's go, Max. You can do it.
I
So
don't know. It's something about the Yankees just messing up pitchers just worries me because Carlos Rodon I thought was better than Max Fried when Carlos Rodon came over. He had one of the best years in San Francisco, and then it was a complete dumpster fire coming into New York, and then wasn't really much better this year. He was kind of an okay pitcher, and I just have concerns about the Yankees. They screw up pitchers like crazy.
yeah, because Garrett Cole did. He just had his Tommy John surgery too. So
What?
didn't he have like Tommy John like 2 years ago or 1 year ago or something like that?
No, no, no. Garrett Cole has not had Tommy John surgery to my knowledge. At least since he has been healthy. Outside of last year where he had that little forearm twinge, I've heard
Oh, that
nothing
must have
about.
yeah, maybe it wasn't Tommy John. It was that forearm
I don't
thing.
think he
Yeah, I
had.
just
I don't
threw it
think he
out of
had
proportion.
surgery though at any point.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I messed
Uh,
that one up. So
yeah.
I could have sworn he did, but I guess obviously not. So
I mean, if he had Tommy John surgery, it must have been back when he was with the Pirates. So I don't remember him
yeah.
with the Houston Astros either.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I must have. I made that up. Scratch that from the record. So
All right, so we'll run through some of the smaller moves made this week. The Orioles have brought in former Yankee Gary Sanchez to a 1 year, $8.5 million deal.
hmm, okay.
Probably going to help Adley out. I think they had
Yeah.
James McCann there before, and he's probably gone. The Dodgers, instead of getting Juan Soto, went out and got Michael Conforto to a one
Hmm,
year, $17 million deal.
okay. That's yeah. He's about worth that. So
The Tigers, they went out and got Alex Cobb from the Guardians.
interesting.
Yeah. Uh,
That should be a tough, fun team to watch next year to see how they do. I think the Cubs are gonna be number one in their division with the players they have. Although I was sad to see Isaac Paredes go.
well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that
Yeah.
because the White Sox they signed Mike Tauchman to a
Hmm.
major league contract. That's probably the extent of their free agency moves for this year.
Yeah,
They
probably.
did, however, make a big trade this week with the Boston Red Sox, and
Hmm.
they
Okay.
acquired the Red Sox acquired Garrett Crochet from the White Sox for four prospects, including Kyle Teal.
Okay. I hope Garrett Crochet is not injured for the Sox next year because that
Uh,
will be a good rotation to watch as well, considering no one expected them to do anything last year and they actually pitched like pretty well.
yeah, they pitched pretty well in the early part of the year, and then some of the arms just got tired towards the back half. Tanner Hawk and
Yeah.
Carter
I
Crawford.
think what was Tanner Hawk had never pitched over like something like 60 innings or something crazy low and then wound up going, 100 and whatever. So
Yeah,
that's
and
kind of expect that, I guess.
it's a similar situation with Crochet as well because Crochet had pitched like 80 innings in the previous like 4 or 5 years combined.
Yeah, so we'll see his durability towards. Do you think the Sox are going to go with a six-man rotation or?
I don't know yet. I feel like the Sox are very much incomplete in the way that their roster is set up right now. They
Yeah,
just have so many different log jams at so many different positions. Their lineup is incredibly lefty heavy right now. And they have to do something to rectify that situation, get another right-handed power bat. I've been
yeah,
hearing that they're looking at Teoscar Hernandez, which would be a
oh,
great fit for them in
yeah,
terms of what they need.
yeah, and they could pay him the money too. So
Yeah. And I feel like they probably are going to make another trade. I feel like
Yeah.
they might be one of the guys that's trading for Luis Castillo that you had mentioned earlier. They have a lot of
Oh,
young
yeah.
hitters
Yeah.
and they need pitching, and
And
it'll
the
be
and the
interesting to see
Mariners
what
need
they
hitter.
do.
I mean, we need a first baseman, a second baseman, a third baseman, and a right fielder. So,
Yeah,
and we've done absolutely nothing so far.
yeah.
Oh, and we only have $25 million to spend. Keep that in the back of your mind. So,
Well, I mean, if you trade Castillo away, that'll open up some money,
I
certainly.
don't know. Jerry and Stan will probably just or sorry, not Stan. Jerry and
No,
the other.
Johnston, right?
Yeah, Stan. Oh yeah, Stan. Yeah, Jerry and Stan will probably just pocket the money so they can be the most profitable team in baseball. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, Hawk did throw 106 innings in 2023, so it wasn't as big of a jump. It was 60 innings the previous 2 years.
Okay, yeah,
But Garrett Crochet, he's somebody who hasn't pitched much at all. And it's not without risk that this trade could, be one of those things where he could progress next year. I'm going to be curious to see if they give him an extension at some point because they Red Sox have been wanting to extend players
yeah,
for better or for worse. They signed Cedon Rafaela and they've extended Brian Bello, who looks like a terrible pitcher at this point. Everybody seems to think he's an ace, but he's been
yeah,
inconsistent.
yeah. He has been. I mean, but when he's been on, man, he's been fun to watch. So
Yeah, I don't know what the Red Sox are gonna do. They have so many young arms. They still have Garrett Whitlock out there too.
yeah,
I
who's the
mean,
guy who went down for surgery this year? Who was pitching pretty well at the beginning, like started the year, and it was like I think after a month he it might have maybe it was Whitlock or it was somebody.
maybe it was, yeah,
Um,
Whitlock may have gone down. And then the Red Sox, of
yeah.
course, they have
Oh,
Lucas
that's
Giolito coming back too.
oh yay.
So like they have a lot of different directions that they can go with their players. Let's see.
Yeah, but they got Tanner Houck to anchor it down.
Yeah,
My
you're
boy
right.
last
You're
year.
right.
So,
Whitlock went through the internal brace procedure for torn UCL back in
so
May.
okay, so maybe I can. I'm just gonna lie and say I confused him with Garrett Cole. So nailed it, saved
Yeah,
it.
you got your Garrett's mixed up. That makes sense. They got the same first name.
Yeah.
So our boys from Colorado, they signed Tyro Estrada to a
Okay.
major league deal.
All right.
The Blue Jays are keeping Yimi Garcia for 2 years, 15 million, which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Blue Jays also acquired Andreas Jimenez from the Guardians.
Really, really, the Platinum Glover to the Blue Jays, huh?
Yeah, they
I guess
acquired.
they feel like they need more defense in the infield because Andres Jimenez has not batted at all in his major league career, basically. So,
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the Guardians received Spencer Horwitz in the trade, and then that
huh.
same day, the Pirates acquired Spencer Horwitz for three pitchers from from the Guardians. So the guy got
Okay,
traded
so it was
twice
like
in
a
the same
probably a
day.
three. It was probably like a three-way trade that they just couldn't quite get done, so they just did it two times. So
And we got Nathan Eovaldi. He signed with the Rangers. He's back with them for 3 years, $75 million.
okay, and Kyle Higashioka went to the Rangers to back
Yes,
up Jonah Heim. So
yeah.
yeah,
So Navaldi is a guy who I thought I would have rather had the Yankees sign because
yeah,
of the short-term deal and the similar dollars, but I forgot way back when that the Yankees had Eovaldi, so I
yeah, okay.
probably didn't want to go back down that road again.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? We tried it once. It was okay, but we remember why we traded him. So,
Yeah. The Rangers also acquired Jake Berger from the Marlins.
Well, is Jake Berger still like 300 pounds just trying to make it work, or
I
did
don't
he?
think he's that big. I think I think he for a guy named Berger, I don't think
Yeah.
he's as hefty
Oh
as.
no, I'm thinking of Rowdy Tellez. I'm thinking of Rowdy Tellez. That's who I'm thinking.
Oh, I thought you were thinking of Daniel Vogelbach.
I mean, either one. Take your picks. Jake
The
Berger. All right,
Yankee
that'll be
the
interesting.
Yankees keep making more moves. They re-signed Jonathan Loáisiga, and they traded for Devin Williams from the Brewers to
Yeah,
shore
I
up
think
their
that will
bullpen.
make their. Well, didn't they get rid of Clay
Well,
blow a save home?
Clay Holmes was a free agent. He signed with the Mets,
Yeah.
so
Oh, okay. So
they
went
had
to
a
blow
spot at
saves on the
closer.
Mets. So now they got Juan Soto to give them the lead, and they got Holmes to blow the lead. So that
Well,
should be interesting.
Holmes is actually going to try to be a starter. That they're going to try him out at
And
that.
that's right. We were talking about that.
Yes,
So I'll just take losses now. So
but Devin Williams is going to be the closer, and the Yankees were able to get rid of Nestor Cortez in that deal.
yeah, I know how you feel about Nestor Cortez. I still stand behind that.
I
That was a good pitch. So
I don't blame Nestor Cortez for what happened. I have made my case very clear that I don't have issue with him personally. I think it
yeah,
was just the management being dumb.
yeah.
And management also they gave up Caleb Durbin in that deal. And I had been hearing rumblings that he was gonna be the guy they put in at second base
Mm,
to replace Glaber. I was hearing a
okay,
lot of good things about him. So
okay, yeah.
Brewers may have gotten one over on the Yankees there.
The interesting thing will be watching. I think the Yankees do get better with this trade. I think it'll be fun to watch Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. I hope Luke Weaver continues to play well and then kind of like trade off situationally to close out games.
Yeah,
So,
I think Luke Weaver's going to be the setup guy, but there's going to be nights when Devin Williams can't, is going to be tired and needs
yeah.
an off night. And
You think they're just gonna like basically designate him the setup guy, like how they messed everything? I mean, Luke Weaver technically didn't really have the job, but that like designating oh man, whose name I'm just gonna Presley as the setup guy really messed with his confidence this last year, it seems.
yeah,
So
but you gotta bring in if you're bringing in Devin Williams, you're bringing him in to close, and
yeah, I mean that's fair. So
Luke Weaver doesn't have enough of a track record as the closer to be like the guy. Like, whereas Presley
yeah,
was closing games in the World Series and
yeah,
hadn't really shown any signs of,
slowing down
blowing.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was still very good last year.
yeah,
Before,
yeah. You're right. That is a completely different situation. So
yeah.
yeah,
Speaking of the Astros, good transition for us there. They traded away Kyle Tucker, which I was very surprised that they were even considering trading him because
yeah,
they kind of floated out, we're listening to names on anybody, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, sure. But no, they
yeah,
actually pulled the trigger on a Kyle Tucker trade, and you mentioned your boy Isak Paredes being in that deal, as well as Cam Smith, who's supposed to be one of the top prospects of the Cubs, and Hayden Wesneski, who was pitcher for that team.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I,
think
I guarantee you, Paredes is probably going to play first base, not third. But we'll see where he winds up. So
Yeah, it all depends on what the Astros decide to do with Alex Bregman. And Bregman is somebody who I keep hearing wants a deal larger than the 6 year, $150 million deal which Matt Chapman signed with the Giants. And I think Bregman's gonna be one of those guys that gets disappointed and has to sign a pillow contract. I don't think he's gonna get anywhere near the money that he wants.
yeah, I mean, if he was on the World Series team, the Cheatstros, right? Or
Yes, he was.
yeah, yeah. If he had that year this year, I think he would get it. But I don't think he particularly had a very good year this year. So
Alex Bregman has not been an all-star since 2019.
yeah, okay, there we go. A lot of not good years in a row. So
Yeah, I mean, he did win the Gold Glove this year at third base,
okay,
but this year was his worst year at the plate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He had a 768 OPS, which is his worst since 2021 for a full season. And he walked way less this year than he normally was. That was kind of his thing. He was known as a guy who walked a ton, and
Yeah.
he only walked 44 times this year. He walked 92 times in last year, and then 87 times the previous time. So he was a guy known for getting on base and really helping the team out, and he just was not that good this year. So I don't think he's worth what Boris thinks he's gonna get. I think he's gonna really be disappointed.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
although you could have a desperate team like the Yankees that may, because they didn't get Soto, they can be taken advantage of.
Yeah, that's true. So, we need a third baseman. We love struggling people, but if he goes to the Mariners while he's struggling, he's not going to have any work after a year. So,
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's gonna get what he wants to get.
yeah. Well,
Now,
yeah.
Now, Paredes is somebody who really struggled badly when he was in Chicago. And from
Yeah.
what I have read up about him, he has a heavy left-handed left field power stroke. And based on like StatCast numbers, if he had played all of his games last year in Chicago, he would have had 13 home runs.
Oh,
If he
gotcha.
played all of his games in Houston last year, he would have had 26.
Ah, okay. So he's just better suited for that ballpark then.
Yes, I
Because
think that.
the Cubs reacquired because that's where he started his career was the Cubs, and then he went to the Rays, right? And then now he went back to the Cubs, and
I
now
no no I thought that Paredes was originally with the Tigers. I'm
oh,
pretty
I thought
sure Paredes came over in the Austin Meadows trade.
oh, yeah, you could be right. He was on the Cubs at some point. Maybe he was
Well, yeah, he was on
product.
the Cubs this year. He got traded to the Cubs.
Yeah. I thought they got traded back to the Cubs, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
He's only 25 years old though, so he's still got a lot of baseball left in him.
Yeah, I mean he's got I think 3+ years of control, so he's gonna. Oh, you were right. He was with the Chicago Cubs before he was traded to the Tigers.
Yeah, so I knew it because they when he came back to the Cubs this year, because he was on my fantasy team, they said he's being reunited with the Cubs. So I was like, okay, no, I didn't know if he started there or just was on the team at some point in time. So
Yep. And one more move we got this week with involving the Rays. The Athletics acquired Jeffrey Springs, a pitcher,
hmm,
which I
okay,
think
I've never even heard of that guy. So
Jeffrey Springs was a starter. I believe he came off of Tommy John surgery, so you didn't really see him much this
okay,
past year. I think let me see, he's 32 years old. Was. He signed a 4-year, $31 million contract extension with the Rays in January of 2023, and then he ended up having Tommy John surgery early in 2023.
hmm,
So that's probably why he may not have picked up on him too much because he was out most of the last year or so with surgery, but he came back last year, uh, pitched all right from what I could tell. He was still recovering from the surgery.
yeah,
He
all
had
right,
Let's see. He started 7 games, 2-2, 3.27 ERA.
oh, okay, that's pretty serviceable. So
Yeah, his whip was really high, but he was probably still kind of
yeah,
shaking the cobwebs out. It's only 30 innings. It's kind of hard to
yeah,
gauge somebody
yeah,
at that point.
that's true. So you have like one or two bad games and have weird numbers. So.
I don't know. I think if the A's end up not getting rid of Brent Rooker, I think the A's are still going to be better than the Angels this year.
Yeah, well, wouldn't that be a trip? You got a professional team playing at like a high school stadium in Sacramento, and they're still crushing the Angels. So,
Yeah, and that division's going to be interesting because the Astros are going to have to do something to replace Kyle Tucker in that lineup. That's a giant hole
Yeah,
in there. I know Tucker didn't play for a significant chunk of last year because he had that shin contusion.
yeah,
He is a legit player, and he's
yeah. When he gets hot too.
yeah, he
So
was playing incredibly well this past year when he was there.
yeah, he used to be the only guy who didn't wear batting gloves and would just rub dirt on his hands. And then it's funny about it. This year he was wearing gloves. I saw. So
Well, we'll have to see what kind of attire he's wearing next year with the Cubs.
yeah.
Anyway,
Cubs are going to be a good team, man. Every single time I hear about the Cubs making moves, they're making moves to win. So,
well, the Cubs may have some more moves in store by the
yeah,
time we record next, but we're running out of time on the show today. Do you have any final words?
yeah, there have been 737 triple plays in Major League Baseball since 1876, but there's only been one person to end his career by hitting into a triple play in all of those years, and that is Joe Pinatano in 1962 in September.
Wait. There have been 700 triple plays?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, there's Wikipedia says 737. There's on another website there's 736. So obviously, there's arguing about whatever. But not only that, here's the other thing that I thought was interesting. I always thought perfect games were the rarest thing in baseball, but it's actually unassisted triple plays, which has happened 15 times in MLB history.
Man. I mean, I've seen a triple play, and it was one of those things where I was like, oh, wow, that was a triple play. I didn't even pick up on that. I thought it was a double play, and then we're just showing the highlights. Oh, it was a triple play. Just happened so
Yeah,
fast. I didn't even
no, that's
notice.
how I feel like that's how every single one of them happens. You're just like, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, that was all three of them. So,
Yeah, mine was the one I saw involved an outfield, so it wasn't like one of those traditional infield triple plays like
okay, yeah,
when Manny Machado ended the Dodgers game with a triple play back in September.
okay,
You know, the
oh, okay.
third to second to first. So,
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because he's got a cannon for an arm. So,
yeah.
yeah,
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. It was nice talking to you guys.
bye now.